there, welcome to Share Your Story and Inspire Others. I am Fiona Brennan, your host. I'm a personal success coach, founder of Inspire Action Success, and here in conjunction with Global Maps Events, I share with you beautiful stories from heart-centered entrepreneurs around the globe. This show is for entertainment purpose only, and the views of our guests are not necessarily the views of Inspire Action Success or MAPS Global Events. Enjoy. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Share Your Story to Inspire Others session. So today I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by the lovely Helen Pengelly, who is a healing coach, a healing and spiritual coach. And Helen, you are so welcome here to chat with me today. Thank you for joining me.
Well, you're very welcome, Fiona. I'm very happy to be here.
Excellent. Helen, where are you currently based?
I'm currently based in Bognor Regis on the south coast of England, right by the sea.
You're by the sea?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Lovely.
Been swimming in the sea this morning.
Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. Oh, I'll have to come over to see you, so. Perfect. Well, listen, welcome, Helen. I'm delighted to have you here. And, you know, this episodes are all about sharing your story to inspire people. Sharing the stories of where maybe we struggled in our lives and we found something to help us, or we reached points where we thought, okay, there is something I can do about this, and then getting, I suppose, to the other side. So I would love to invite you to just maybe take us back on your journey of where you were, what happened, and yeah, go from there.
Okay, thanks, Fiona. Yeah, well, there's so much, you know, I could say. I'm 58 now, so I've had a long life and lots of things have happened. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about is meditation and how that's helped me. So I've been meditating since about 2005, 2006, and I do think it saved my life.
Wow.
So if we go back a few years before that, to 2002, I'd just come out of an abusive marriage. I had 3 young sons, and I just got my teaching qualification because I knew I would need to be able to support my family, you know, when I got divorced. And so I worked as a teacher for full-time for 3 years. And at the end of my first year of teaching, I was also diagnosed with celiac disease, and I'd been very ill. And I was relieved to find out what it was, what was wrong with me, and that, you know, I could change my diet and I'd be well again. And that was sort of really, I suppose, the start of my sort of personal development, personal growth journey, because when I was diagnosed back, that was 2003, there wasn't as much food available in the shops and in restaurants as there is now, gluten-free food. So I sort of got the idea of starting a business supplying gluten-free food, in particular to restaurants, because I'd got involved with the UK's charity Celiac UK, and they were launching a campaign to get restaurants to cater for celiacs. But I realised, well, they can't cater for celiacs because there's nowhere for them to buy the food.
Yeah.
And so I got the idea of setting up this business, like gluten-free food, and then I got people saying, oh, well, can we buy from you? So it became more of an online shop where people could buy the food. And also what I realized as I was doing that business, you know, people would phone me up, and it wasn't just about the food. They wanted to talk to somebody who understood what they were going through, and they said, are you celiac as well? And then they would sort of like unload and share all the struggles that they'd had. And some of that was quite an eye-opener for me, because when I was diagnosed, I knew what it was because my grandfather had it. So I wasn't sort of daunted by it. And because he was diagnosed in the 1970s when there was absolutely nothing apart from what you could get on prescription. So I'd kind of taken it in my stride, and I hadn't realised how many other people were struggling. So that was sort of probably the first sort of step on my journey to becoming a coach as well. And also, while I had that business, I used to go to a lot of business networking events. And I met a couple who ran spiritual tours, and they used to go to places like the pyramids, Stonehenge, Mount Shasta, and things like that. But they found it very difficult to explain what they did. So they said, we'll run a taster evening for you and we'll show you some of the things that we do. So they just rented a room in a hotel, and we did some meditation, chanting, movement, and it was all new to me. I'd never done anything like this before. And so the following morning when I woke up, bearing in mind I got 3 sons, well, they're all grown up now, but they were still quite young then. Yeah. And so you can imagine what it was like in my house in the morning, trying to get them organised and ready for school and get everybody out the door on time. And I just felt so calm. And I hadn't ever felt like that before. And I'm just thinking, wow, I think I need more of this. Yeah. And so I did go to a place in Brighton, because at the time I was living in Worthing, but it was still a bit of a trek. And then one day I was out shopping in Worthing, and I was by the till. There was a little flyer. It said meditation classes starting next week, and it was on the same day evening that my boys were at Scouts, and just around the corner from their Scout hut. So it was like, it was all like, oh, this was like almost like me. And also at the time, my oldest son, so this must have been, that was, by this time it was early 2007, and my oldest son had just turned 18, and I was having all sorts of problems with him. He was drinking heavily, got to drugs, he was stealing from us, and then he actually left home a few months later. So this was like a really difficult time for me and my 2 younger sons, because he'd mostly been stealing from them, and it was just and it was just a horrible thing. You're just thinking, I felt like it was almost like they've had part of their childhood taken away, because it's not, and realizing the effect that all this had on the family. But because now I sort of found this, it was a Buddhist group that I went to, and a lovely supportive community, people who don't judge you, they accept you for who you are. And then a couple of years later, I started going on retreats, and so that enabled me to sort of have time away from the busyness of daily life, no phones, internet, emails, and just have time to sort of go deeper and learn from some really good teachers. And I volunteer at a meditation retreat centre as well. I'm going there next week. Can't wait as well. And so I probably spend, well, apart from the last, until July this year, they were closed for about 1.5 years, so obviously not during that time, during lockdown, but it's and I can just see how this has helped me. And of course, when I learned to meditate, it wasn't trendy then. It was some people would look at you like you're a bit weird, and that kind of thing. Well, that's a bit weird. You're a bit of a hippie kind of thing. But but also that's what I'm a very practical person as well. I said I was a teacher. My subject is maths, so I'm very logical as well. And also what I love science, and the fact that there's the science behind meditation to back it up. I've read a lot of books by Joe Dispenza, who's done brain scans and things like that shows the brain changes after meditation, that we used to think that once we were adults that we couldn't change the brain, but now we know that we can actually rewire our brain through meditation. And even before I knew all this, I could just see the benefits that it was having in my life, and it's not a selfish thing to do. It's a very altruistic thing to do, because you don't just benefit yourself, it also benefits everybody around you. And especially with my younger son, because he was only 10 when all this was going on with my oldest son, and so he's just turned 25 now, but when he was a teenager, he was very angry and like a real Kevin the teenager. He was just like that. And I'd learned sort of through my meditation practice that the way I responded to him was really important. And if I got angry too, I'm not saying I'm perfect and I never got angry, you know, I'm still human. But at the same time, it's like, well, I just have to learn to respond to him with compassion as well. And to myself, you know, if I got upset and angry and I lost my rag, I'm thinking, oh, I need to be kind to myself as well. And so I've noticed with him over the years how he sort of now grown up into a very self-aware young man. And he said something to me recently. He said, oh, I just think about, you know, if I feel myself getting upset and angry, he said, what would my mum do? And so I just sort of always crying as I say that, because that was such an amazing thing to say, because I never told him, oh, you know, you need to meditate, you need to go and do this. And he does yoga now. He said, I think, he said, he's the only guy that goes to his yoga class. I think all the rest of them are women about my age, so they all love him. But you know, but that means that he's, because I was very also worried when he was a teenager that he's going to end up like his father. But now I can see that the effect that it's had on him, it means he's you know, if he has children, he's going to be a better dad. And it's about ending that cycle of anger, blame and abuse. And also realizing, going back to my oldest son, one of the things I learned as well, that I couldn't do anything about him. You know, as much as we want other people to change, we can't change them. We can only change ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me, Helen, you know, the statement that meditation saved my life. Tell me a little bit more about you know, where that point was. There a point in time where if you had not the meditation, there could have been a different outcome?
Oh, definitely. And I would say that would have been after my ex-husband died. I mean, he died in 2014, very suddenly, unexpectedly. He was only 51. And so it was a big shock for all of us. And my youngest son was only 17. So, you know, something else he's been through as well. And so for one thing, first of all, I realised, you know, as parents, you know, we naturally want to protect our children and save them from bad things happening to them. So it meant I realised, well, I can't do that. They've got to go through whatever they're going through. I can be there to support them. And that's why I love the word compassion, because that just means being with somebody in their suffering. It means you don't have to fix them or solve it, but you can just be there with them, be there for them. And then about a year later, it was a very difficult year because as he died so young and unexpectedly, he hadn't left a will, and it caused all sorts of problems with the family, with his family. And I felt like I was caught in the middle of it all. And also what had happened, because when we got divorced and I just started teaching, I had 3 young kids, I put myself last. And meditation had taught me the importance of self-care as well. So I then realised, well, hold on, I can't keep going on the way that I've been going on. I'd gone back into teaching because I closed my other business, and I did my coaching qualification. I was sort of figuring out what I wanted to do next. So I'd gone back and done some supply teaching to earn some money. And I just thought, so of course that was quite stressful as well. And I thought, well, you know, I've got to take some time out here to heal and allow myself to feel whatever I'm feeling and to let those emotions out. And I think, you know, I cried non-stop for 2 weeks, and everybody's saying, oh, you look so well, Helen. And I think I'm having an awful time, but I think it was because I wasn't suppressing anything. And I think, you know, without that awareness, it could have been very different. You know, it would be like, oh, well, maybe doing something unhealthy, like drinking too much, you know, because I mean, not that I was ever a heavy drinker, but I had noticed, oh, well, I hardly ever drink now, but in the past I could quite easily think, oh, I'll just have a glass of wine this evening and then end up drinking the whole bottle, you know, but I never do that now. So I think, you know, think it's that awareness that stopped me from going down a sort of unhealthy, sort of harmful route and taking on more harmful behavior, which could have been, you know, quite damaging. And also with your mental health as well. I mean, that's something that I've struggled with, I still do, but at the same time, it's like I'm not trying to push it away or think this is bad or anything, but it's about just bringing awareness to that. So I think, you know, after he died, it was like, even though I thought, oh, I've been doing really well, I realised, oh, there's still more work to be done, because I just got my coaching qualification as well. It was the same week that he died, and then I heard I'd passed my coaching course. And that also sort of made me realise that I need to work through this stuff before I can go and coach other people, because I can't coach other people if I haven't worked on my own stuff. And that's really important, you know, that and that's another thing that I've learned about, you know, coaching. It's not something like when you're doing a job, oh, you do like 40 hours a week. You only do a few hours a week, because that time in between that you need to work on yourself to be able to show up fully for your clients. So, you know, for me, otherwise, if I didn't take care of myself, then I'd burn out and I'd be no good to anybody else. And with the meditation, that just gives you that opportunity just to step out the busyness of daily life. And it doesn't have to be anything amazing. You don't have to sit in the lotus position and do Vipassana for 2 hours. You can just sit on the sofa with a cup of tea and look out the window. It doesn't need to be anything fancy or complicated. And I think that's another reason why I'm so passionate about it, is also spreading the word and educating people about all the misconceptions there are around meditation as well. That there seems to be this kind of air of mystery about it, that you need to be like a Zen monk and live in a monastery, but what some of the times, you know, when my practice has been really deep, has been when I've been going through the most difficult times in my life. And when I was working in a school a few years ago, for example, which was a very challenging school, and I knew that I wouldn't survive this placement. I was there for about 5 months doing a maternity cover. I wouldn't be able to survive this placement without my meditation practice in the morning. So I'm sort of grounded, and that I'm in that place before I start my day as well.
So when you came, just to kind of recap on it, because it's a significant journey that you went through. But so you had your 3 boys and you were married, you know, before you separated. Just remind me the point that you found the meditation card, or you found maybe the couple, you started your own business with the nutrients, the gluten-free foods, and that you found the couple and they gave you the taster session, and then you found the flyer beside the cash register in the local shop. Just, I mean, before that point came, what were things? Were you still married at that point?
No.
This was separated before you started the business, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was separated. We separated just before I started teaching. So we separated. I taught for 3 years, and then I started the business.
Yeah. You know, how would you have described your life up to that point before you started the meditation? How were you as a mom, or as a person, you know, or as a person who gets up in the morning and does the stuff? Like, you know, how was life?
Well, I wasn't happy, for one thing, because I was always, that was another thing that meditation taught me, that nothing out there can make me happy. And it was like, you know, for example, when I separated from my ex-husband, oh well, I need to find another man, I need another relationship to be happy, and that kind of thing. And that's what my life was like. And it was, and I wasn't really aware of the impact that my actions were having on those around me as well. And also, you know, my own self-esteem. You know, I stayed in that marriage far too long because I didn't think I deserved any better. And it took a lot of courage to get out of that marriage as well. So and then realize, well, I have got that strength in there somewhere. But yeah, for the first, well, I was 40 actually when I found out I had celiac disease. I just turned 40. So for the first sort of 40 years of my life, I was just putting everybody else's needs before my own, and, you know, looking after kids, doing what everybody else expected of me, trying to be a good wife, a good mother, a good daughter, you know, doing that, oh, I have to get a good job, I have to be married, it's, you know, divorce is shameful, and because I grew up, you know, in a Christian sort of family, in a Christian background, there was very much that was ingrained into us. Like, you know, when I married him, we hadn't lived together because that was frowned upon, so I didn't really know him when we got married. And then there was all that inner turmoil about getting divorced. So what are people going to think of me? Are they going to think I'm a terrible person because I'm a single mom? And all that kind of stigma that was, I mean, a lot of it, you know, we put on ourselves as well. And obviously things have moved on. You know, it was the 1980s when I got married, so 35 years ago. Things have moved on since then. But a lot of it, you don't realize how you've been so conditioned and how much of that is ingrained in you, and you're just going through life on autopilot because you're just acting out of the way you've been conditioned. And that's another thing that meditation taught me. Like in Buddhism, they sort of have the wheel of life, where you're going around, just one thing happens, you react to that, then you react to another thing, and you just sort of like on this hamster wheel, just going around in circles. But then there's this point where you've got the gap. So it's when something happens, you know, because we can't control what happens out there. And I love Jack Canfield, who's a American like personal development guru, and he always says the world will just keep on worlding, and it's true. But the thing that makes a difference is when we step off that wheel, when we step off that into that gap, and we think, oh, okay, I have a choice here. I can respond differently. And I noticed sort of I used to be quite an angry person as well, and a lot of it was suppressed as well, because we, you know, growing up, we didn't talk about our feelings, and there was a lot of, you know, when I look back now, although on the surface it all appears very calm, there's a lot of passive aggression there because people aren't saying what they're really thinking. And so and I noticed after a few years, I think maybe it was one of those times when you're on the phone to the bank or something and you're on hold and you're getting a bit bored and a bit impatient, and then I realized, oh, I'm not getting angry with the person on the other end of the phone, and I can feel compassion for them, because I wouldn't want to be doing that job and having people getting upset and angry with me. So I can be kind to them instead. And again, it's like I was saying about the effect that it has on other people. You just think that little ripple effect, if somebody's just, even if I'm the only person that day, it was nice to them
on that phone, and if you respond or react differently to that person on the bank phone, that you're waiting very patiently and nicely, but if you wait in a different way, the impact it has on their day afterwards is a knock-on effect. That then has a knock-on effect on whoever they're dealing with, and the ripple goes on. Whereas, you know, when you respond slightly differently, choose to be show a bit more compassion, you know, that in turn then knocks on from their side. But Helen, I love the story, the piece, you know, where you did find, you know, the couple and the flyers set beside the register at that point where, to me, you know, things had fallen apart, and yeah, you had taken the brave step to leave your marriage, but you were very much in need of some sort of support right there. You needed something. You were doing the things, you were doing the teaching, you were starting the business, you were doing the things, you know, to try and keep things going, you know, what felt good, but you needed something else. And you know, you were given the meditation beautifully into your lap. As you say, it was just around the corner, and the timing the same as the Scouts evening, and you know, it's, and so started your journey of support. That, to me, what I'm hearing is that it then kind of produced like a lovely layer, like a bubble, a safety layer or a bubble of support around you for the things that followed. You know, the more challenging things that followed, you know, as you described your ex-husband passing, and, you know, the challenges with your children, and all of that just gave you that extra support and layer of being able to approach it in a different way. And as you say, then the impact then you having that have had on your kids, maybe not directly at that point in time, but certainly it has impacted them positively, you know, as they've grown older. And you know, and I do believe that even at the time there was positive impact on them, even though they might have been challenged in those teenage years. It could have been a whole other different type of challenge without it, had you been, you know, in a bit more reactive or spinning around in that circle, that wheel, as you mentioned. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Because, you know, there's one example I can remember with my youngest son. He'd come home from work one day when he was still living at home, and he was, or college, I can't remember, one or the other. He was probably about 18 or 19 at the time, and he got home and he started shouting and swearing at me and things like that. And I'm just like, what do I do here? I can feel my hackles rising, but I'm just thinking, just breathe. And then he went stomping off upstairs, just leave him to it. And then he came down later and apologized. And so it's like, yeah, just being in that gap, it gave him that chance to sort of give him the space to perhaps realize, oh, maybe that wasn't a very good, skillful thing that I did to talk to my mum like that. And whereas if I'd have just got into shouting back at him, we'd have just ended up having a shouting match, and then might have ended up throwing something at each other or whatever, but it wouldn't have helped either of us.
Yeah, and then there's the confusion as who is actually supposed to be apologizing here.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, and I'm delighted that you mentioned the whole thing of, look, meditation is not, it's this word, it's like, you know, we were chatting before this about mindfulness. Mindfulness is like this word, it's just bandied about, and that's what happens to words, I suppose. They do get bandied about, and then they lose their importance because of that. You know, to me, mindfulness is not a practice. Mindfulness is part of meditation. It's actually just to be mindful, as opposed to being completely mindless, where you have absolutely no clue about what's going on. And it links into your word awareness, being aware of what's going on around you, being aware enough to know that in that scenario with your teenager, the best thing was to take a deep breath and say nothing and allow him space to leave and calm down. Without that awareness, the scenario and the outcome is totally different. And meditation does not mean, oh, I've got to do 30 minutes and more. Who has time for that crack? Like, no, it's just, you know, and I'd love you to explain it, but to me, meditation is really just, it's part of being mindful. And it's, you know, it's little things, you see, it's little pieces of just being aware of your breathing, just noticing for 10 seconds, hey, hang on a minute, am I breathing right now? Is my heart beating right now? And just fully in tune with it, and stopping all that noise for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you know, 30 if you have them. Or as you say, have the cup of tea on the couch and drink the tea like without anything else, look at something. It can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be, I must prop up and I must do the legs as in the lotus flower position. You know, tell me, you know, anyone who's listening back to this, if they don't meditate right now, what is something that you would recommend them to maybe start doing? A very gentle something they can do maybe every day that's not going to spin them into overwhelm and say, oh, I can't do it.
Yeah. One thing that I used to do actually when I was teaching, and because I wish I'd learnt this in my teacher training, because I might not have left after 3 years, who knows. But anyway, when I went back, because my experience was very different, and when I felt like the class was getting out of control, and it's like, oh my God, and I can feel myself getting anxious and like, how am I going to get these kids to sit down and listen? And then I'd just stand still, and like you're saying, just connect to my breath and just be aware of what's going on in my body. That's something, you know, I've learned from various meditation teachers, is about you know, body awareness, and in relation to emotions as well. So when we have a feeling and an emotion, it always starts as a sensation in the body, and then we add the stories on top of that based on our past experiences. So what if, you know, you find yourself getting anxious or upset or angry, you can come back to where you feel that in the body, and it might be like butterflies in the stomach, it might be your heart pounding, it might be tension in your jaw or something like that, and then you can just relax into that, and then you find that whatever you're feeling, the anxiety, the anger, then it kind of subsides. And when I was doing that, you know, when I was in a classroom and I did that, then all the kids calmed down as well, and I didn't even have to tell them to sit down and be quiet. It just happened naturally, because I'm changing my energy. So because we, you know, they say, isn't it something like only 7% of communication is verbal? So even, you know, they're not even picking up on it consciously, but if I'm changing my inner weather, they're responding to that with their unconscious as well, and they can feel calmer because I'm not getting all anxious as well. So that's just something that could just take a few seconds. And the thing is as well about meditation, yeah, it's great if you've got time to meditate and sit down and make that time. And I like the fact that it's called a meditation practice, because it's practice. It's not just something you do for 30 minutes and then get up and go and do whatever you were doing before. It's that practice for when you go out there into the world, and it's very practical, because it's helping you to face whatever you need to face, because challenges always come up, you know. It doesn't necessarily get any easier, but what does change is the way that you respond to it. So it's like, and also grounding's another good one. It's like going outside barefoot, even in the winter, and just standing on the earth. And again, that's been scientifically proven that that's beneficial. And it just, because we spend, especially in the Western world, we spend so much time up here in our heads, and we overthink things, that those things I said about like coming back into the body, grounding yourself, it just creates that sort of like pattern interrupt, if you like, gets you out of your head, back into your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the important point there is just, even, you know, it's a small piece of time. It can be 20 seconds, it can be 40 seconds, whatever you feel comfortable with. And you know, the thing about that is you start very, very small, but you'll find that you'll actually want to spend more as you see the benefits, as you feel it. The grounding one with the feet, absolutely, it's a brilliant one. You know, it just literally, if you can kind of imagine that you're just letting all the stuff go from your head out through your legs and down to your feet and into the ground, and just let the ground take it away. And then just come back in again. It's amazing the difference. So it's definitely, if anyone's listening and hasn't done anything like this before, that one is definitely worth trying, even for like just 10 seconds to start off with. The most time you'll spend is actually taking on and off your shoes, and just do that. And then the other one, Helen, you were saying, is just even standing and just taking a deep breath. and just kind of connecting, asking your body, you know, where do I feel anything right now? Is there anything, you know, kind of just not feeling quite right? Am I feeling any lumps in my throat or any butterflies or any little aches? And just take a deep breath into that. And again, that's 20-30 seconds. So it's very gentle, just to start something, to start bringing your awareness. And the more you start to build awareness, the more then you can choose to respond rather than react, as you say. Yeah.
And a good time to practice that, and I do that myself, is in the morning as soon as you wake up. And so I just check in with your body, how you're feeling, if there's any tension. Sometimes I wake up and I find that my fists are clenched.
Yes.
No idea why. I'm like, oh, just relax, you know. My jaw, I'm clenching my jaw. I'm thinking, why am I doing that, you know? And just letting go of that.
Yeah, do you know, and I wish I remembered the thing here, but there is a thing to do with your fists being closed. It's something to do with the way you sleep at night or something. I don't know, I must look that back up. I heard an explanation for why, because I wake up my fists and just open them up and just let them relax. Yeah. Helen, it has been a pleasure listening to you, chatting to you here today. We'll wrap it up now, but thank you very much for sharing your journey and your passion for meditation and how it has supported you through all of your challenges in your life and has brought you to where you are now, which is in a beautiful spiritual and healing space. And you have a business called Heal with Helen, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So if anyone is interested even in just chatting to you more, hearing about more of the work that you do, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
Yeah, well, they can email me on, it's all the H's, hello@healwithhelen.com, or go to my website, and I've got a YouTube channel as well, which is just youtube.com/healwithhelen. And I've got guided meditations. And there's guided meditations on there. And I saw something recently, actually, so a comedian, and he was, you know, making fun of these sort of spiritual people, and it was called Healing with Helen. Now, I don't know whether it's because I'd seen my videos, but I loved it because I do a bit of stand-up comedy as well, and I just thought that was hilarious.
Excellent.
I thought it was really funny, and I thought, well, I don't know whether it's because he's seen my stuff, but if he has, I feel like I've arrived.
Well, that's fantastic. Well done, you. Helen, thanks very much, and thank you everybody for listening. So as we said, I suppose if you haven't tried out any piece of meditation, do a little bit of something, deep breathing or standing on the ground for a few seconds, anything very, very small, but just to get a little taste of what life can be like with that in it. So thanks everybody, and chat to you again soon. Thank you, Helen. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.